Hello guys, welcome to Daddy Share Space and welcome to my shop. So as you can see, things look a little bit different behind me, obviously. I've got all of my Ryobi tools up on the wall as opposed to my other brands of tools. Those are all packed away. And so I'm just gonna take this opportunity to kind of share a little bit about things that I find very frustrating in life, but it is what it is. So there are certain things that occur, someone asked me a question about, what's my channel about, what am I sharing exactly? And I try to be more of a person that shows rather than just basically tells, because even if you tell, I find that human language is very limited in being able to communicate ideas and concepts, because I can say something to you and you could take it 100 different ways. So it's very difficult for me to say a message to you and make sure that you understand exactly what I'm trying to convey. But for those that are patient and they just watch the body of work, then they can kind of come to the conclusion of what ultimately everything is about. So I'm just using two of my cameras right now. I've got my wide angle and then I've got right here the 18 to 135. Now, as you can see back here, I've got, basically all of my lower end tools out and about. And there's a reason for that. So I want to touch on this. Basically, so there are several things here in America. I don't know how it is in your country if you're watching from a different country, that are regulated by the law. One of those things being like, say, refrigerants for, say, a car, right? So say, you run out of Freon in your car. They do offer those little cans that you can plug in and try to refill your refrigerant that you can buy from like an AutoZone or a place like that. But they don't allow people, the regular average consumer, to have like, say, a refrigerant machine that siphons out that material and puts it into a container. And they don't want you tinkering around with that system on your car, because obviously it can have negative ramifications for the ozone. Likewise too, like if you're talking about major electrical, you need to have a licensed electrician. If you're dealing with plumbing, sometimes you have to have a licensed plumber to do certain things that you need to do if you do not have that certificate giving you clearance to operate in those fields. And those are times when you have to call someone in to your home and have them do the work for you, which basically means you're gonna have to pay that premium cost, whatever that cost may be. So just getting to it basically. So what I realized is, or I learned this a long time ago, I used to have I can't remember the year, I wanna say in 1992, but that could be wrong, but I had a Z28 Cavalier convertible. I don't know if you guys ever remember those cars from here in the United States. It was gray with a black top. I don't have any images of it or whatever, but that was right when I got out of high school. I had that car and I had got an apartment in the Kansas City, Kansas area. And one day I'm driving down the road and I saw one of my cousins walking on the road. And so he was walking with the guy. And so I picked him up, and cause if you see your relatives or friend or something, you're not gonna just leave them walking. So I picked him up and I gave him a ride, and I ended up taking them back to my apartment. And, just talking or whatever the case may be. Now, everything, seemingly went cool. And then like maybe a day or two later, I woke up and it was raining outside and my convertible top was ripped all the way open. Rain was pouring into my car and the fancy car stereo that I had was ripped out of my car and stolen, obviously. And I remember talking to my cousin about it, and he was like, yeah, that guy that I was with, he ended up popping up with a radio like that. Well, unbeknownst to me, this gentleman, where I was living in my apartment, he lived in some projects that were not far away. So I took him to my home. He saw what I had and he came back and he got it, right? Whether my cousin was involved in that, I'm just gonna trust that he wasn't, but the reality of the matter is that's what happened. And so as a result of a lesson like that learned, whenever, based upon some of the comments that I've had on YouTube, and then also based upon just different interactions that I've had with people that have come into the home and done some work, people get to really eyeballing your stuff. You don't know what state of life that someone's in. They may be doing great. If a person's doing better than you, then you don't typically have to worry about it. But if somebody is not necessarily, or they don't perceive themselves to be doing as well as you, maybe they're a little bit jealous or have a problem with you, and you have things out on display. It's kind of like if you've got a nice watch or diamonds or jewelry, you don't lay it out when you have, like, say, a house cleaner come and clean your home. You're just asking for them to take what you have or to come back and get it. So that being said, we have to have somebody come in and do some work that I am not qualified to do or licensed to do. And as a result, I have put all of my higher end tools away, packed them away, which basically makes it utterly egregious if, you know, anything comes up missing, because that means they would have to rife through and you know, go through stuff to find those things in order to basically five-finger discount them. So these tools up here, obviously I've thought about selling them. I've talked about that on many occasions, but you know, people don't really value Ryobi tools that much, or at least that's been my experience, because basically I have a video up that goes over all the Ryobi tools that I have, which I still have all of them. I have like over 50 Ryobi tools. I put that video out many years ago. It's got like 40 views, right? 40 views after like 3 years or so. And whereas, you know, like you put up a Festool video and all of a sudden you can get 40 views in an hour or even more if you're a bigger YouTuber. But so I'm saying this to basically kind of paint a bigger picture about, like, I am not progressing as fast as I would like to as far as in learning skills. So I looked at things like being an African American or whatever. Growing up, I didn't know what a charcuterie board was, right? I guess it's just a fancy cutting board. And I know that I've seen plenty of channels where people started off making stuff like charcuterie boards, and next thing you know, they've got a business and they're doing great and they're building shops and doing all these things, expanding, getting endorsements, all this stuff. Well, you have to think about it. Everything's about supply and demand. And if a large portion of people that look like me are like not doing as well economically, you can just go look at the data, then of course you're not going to get sponsorships, because who are you selling to? You know, most people are not going to listen to someone like me. Some people have more of an open mind, but not as many people as you think have an open mind about, you know, their sources of information. That's just a fact. And so it would make no sense, you know, because I thought about it. I considered, I was like, oh, you know, maybe I could start making something like charcuterie boards or whatever, and you can start off whatever. But if you got like, say, 100 people making charcuterie boards and your social network is not that large, you're not gonna make any money doing that. So it makes no sense to build up in that way. Likewise, you've got people on YouTube that are making $10,000, $20,000, $5,000, you know, like coffee tables and dining room tables. Nobody's gonna buy that from me. It doesn't matter how good my skills get. They have people that they can buy those things from. And so as a result, it doesn't make sense to enter into a market that's already saturated with about a lot of people that are doing a great job in that avenue. You know, you kind of have to find your own little niche. And there again, you know, if in my community a lot of people are not in a position to pay for $10,000 coffee tables and so on and so forth, then why would I be making them? What sense does that make for me to even put the process into learning how to make something like that you're not going to be able to sell? Because, you know, at least with my tools I can store these. But if I'm building like big furniture pieces, where are they going? Am I going to just take them to the dump? Am I just going to give them away to the Goodwill? You know, like I've done simple build videos, you know, obviously showing my level of skills, which is not that advanced. But like if you spend, say, several hours in a day building something and you get like 17 views, even with the YouTube algorithm and how it pays out, you know, that's pretty much you're going backwards, right? And it's such a different contrast, because this, you know, YouTube ultimately is just an advertising platform. Even though it's YouTube, you know, it was purchased and now it's been made into like an advertising platform. If you advertise products, you're going to get a lot more clicks than if you're doing something, unless you're just outstanding. Like if, say, you were a great dancer or an amazing singer, then you can actually do something like build a large audience like that. Or maybe you're a comedian and you're super funny. You can build an audience, and then the algorithm, it has no choice but to kind of pay, you know, people like that, because the people vote with their attention span, so on and so forth. And so like if you know, like personally at my height and my girth, I was not born physical attributes to play professional basketball, professional football, professional baseball. So that's not an option for me. I've already basically squelched the idea of making charcuterie boards and $10,000 tables. So then what would be the reason for me to buy such a large collection of tools? Well, initially it all started out because I had little things that I needed to fix. I remember when we used to live in an apartment down in, well, let me go back a little bit further. When I owned my first home, I think I had an issue with like maybe some pipes bursting or something like that. Maybe they froze or something. So I had to become a quick study of learning how to be able to repair copper piping. So I went out and bought the torch, bought the flux, bought the solder, and I was able to do that. I was able to cut out the broken part and replace it with couplers and everything that I needed to do. And the reason why I had to do that is because I didn't have the money to pay a plumber. I mean, at that time, I think I was making like $8 an hour. So even though I owned a home, I wasn't making a lot of money. I was in nursing school at the time, and so I was pretty much broke, right? And so typically when you don't have as much money, you learn how to kind of muscle your way through and do things on your own, hence DIY. And as I've moved up or whatever, you know, I became a nurse, and now I'm almost 25 years in, my income is a lot higher, but I don't operate like a typical person that makes the wage that I make. Instead of me going out and saying I can go finance this and finance that and finance the other, I'd rather, you know, have a lot more control over my finances. And, you know, like any tool that I buy, it's just a one and done purchase. I buy it, and whether I break it, I lose it, it gets stolen, whatever the case may be, it's done. It's not a situation like today, if I was to go out and say buy a car. Like pretty much anybody would probably give me a car, right? I can go out and, you know, buy a car, and, you know, because my credit score is pretty high, it's over 800. So if you have a pretty decent credit score, got a little bit of money in the bank, you got a good salary, you can just go out and walk and go sign up for one of these 50, 60, 70, 80, $100,000 cars and walk away with $1,000 car payment. For me, I think that's just absolutely absurd. It's just ridiculous, you know? It's not something that I'm willing to do. Now, if society or the world puts me in a position where I have a gun in my head and I have to do it, then what can you do? But for right now, as long as I can hold out, that's what I'm gonna try to do. I'm gonna try to hold out. I'm gonna keep my Saab that I paid $2,000. I'm gonna keep tinkering and working on that, and try to get it nursed back to health before I go out and sign on the dotted line for some 84-month loan. I think that's just absolute stupidity, but it is what it is. Everybody does what they do. As I said, no charcuterie boards, no $10,000 tables, have not been quite as creative at coming up with something totally new. I mean, there's billions of people in the world, so and according to scripture, there's nothing new under the sun. So anything that I would come up with would be nothing more than an iteration on something that somebody else did. And as I said, you know, just being on YouTube and looking at, I have like just over 2,000 subscribers, which I'm very grateful for each and every one of you that have chosen to subscribe. That's not a big sample size. I mean, like here on YouTube, I'm making like what, $100, $120 a month. I think the most that I've ever made is 160. That's definitely not life-changing, especially when you consider all the money that I've invested in the tools that I've collected. But I guess it's a good thing that I have a backup plan, and that backup plan being the fact of what I was saying in the beginning, when you get used to not having money and learning how to tinker and fix things yourself, the only thing that's going to stop me from working on things myself is law and legislation, period. So if law tells me I can't go buy one of those machines to take, clean out my air conditioning line so I can work on that part, like my truck hasn't had air conditioning for like, I don't know, 2 or 3 years or whatever. So, and it gets really hot here in Sacramento. I just suffer through it. I just deal with it. I paid $5,500 for that truck, and I remember I took my truck into one place that allegedly does something with air conditioning, and the guy, he just looked at me and he was like, I ain't gonna be able to get to it. And that was it, Why would I ever go back there, right? And so then I took it to another guy, and he had the equipment. Obviously he had the licensure to have the equipment to do what he had to do. And I'm paying this guy, right? And I'm paying him cash, right? And I'm right there, paying attention to what he's doing. And it just basically, he's just like, replace this part, that don't work. Replace that part, that don't work. And he's continually like expecting me to keep paying him. I just said, you know what, forget it. He was like, oh, you don't want, no, forget it. Clearly, in my opinion, you don't know what the hell you're doing, and all you're doing is milking me like a cow. So I just decided to stay hot. But I decided that after paying this person like $500 or so, and so you just realize that you can't always get people to do the right thing or to do right by you, and you have to make a decision for yourself. Me, I'm a nose to spite my face type of person, right? If I realize that someone has the upper hand on me in certain thing, I just start trying to make it to where I don't need that hand anymore. It's just that simple, because I can move forward more with all of my resources than I can with just some of them. We're going into a world and into an environment where everything is like subscription and pay forever. That's not my thing. I'm trying to go in the opposite direction. Maybe a losing battle. And it's more so a losing battle because of the people out there that are choosing to pay these high prices, that are choosing, and I'm not saying there's no problem with paying high prices. I'm not criticizing that. I pay high prices. My issue is when you decide to sign up for credit to buy these things, that just gives them the incentive to go higher. That's all you're doing. All you're doing is giving them a license to go higher. I remember years ago, think about smartphones. Smartphones used to be, you would pay like, you would either get the phone for free, $100, $200. I think when the original iPhone came out, they may have made you pay like $500 or something. That was like unprecedented at that time. But it came with a 2-year agreement that you had to agree with the cellular provider in order to get that subsidized cost. So they came up with the bright idea of, hey, let's give them no interest, payment-based thing, and we'll drop the payment of the cost of the cellular service by a little bit, and then we'll put the whole cost of the phone on the consumer. And most of us ate it up. Even I did originally. And so you're thinking, oh, you know what? I can get a phone, because remember, phones were cheaper then. I can get a phone and pay like $30 a month extra on my bill, and every year or two, I can actually get a whole new phone if I want to, or every year and a half. Well, look at it now. Look at those payments now. If you want to get the high-end phone, that payment, if you agree to it, is taking you past 3 years or more. And a lot of times these devices aren't even lasting up to their full capacity for that full 3 years. It's crazy the way that it goes. So everything is just turning into a situation where people are just putting you in a position where they want to basically put their hooks into you and basically siphon off as much cash, as much money. And you have to be, you have to live with your head on a swivel. You have to be looking to your left, your right, behind you, whatever the case may be, to make sure that you're not bleeding, whether it be things that you bought by them getting stolen, or bleeding money unnecessarily through these, companies becoming very, very crafty about the way that they're putting things together in order to siphon more money. There's more on that stuff to come on this channel. I'm going to talk to you some more about some things that I'm going on, but mainly I just wanted to get on here and do this little video. Ultimately, this is why I'm so far behind on my projects, because it's either something breaks down at home, it makes me have to take everything down, right? Because think about it, now I'm gonna have to set all this stuff back up. I'm gonna have to set everything back up, and more than likely I'm not gonna even set it up the same way that I had it before. Ultimately, because charcuterie boards is out, $10,000 tables is out, I've kind of settled in for myself is that I want to learn how to make cabinets. Why? Well, because cabinets and, like bookshelves, closed cabinets, all of these things will be beneficial to me in my household, because then, like right here, French cleat wall is fine. Like maybe if you want to, put your tools on display. But imagine if I made cabinets, right, that had doors that close. It would make this look more symmetrical back here. It wouldn't be so much going on in your eye gates or whatever. If I'm talking about a topic in the video, it would be neater. And then also too, if I had a situation where you have to have somebody come to work on something in the house, if everything is behind a closed cabinet, then they're not seeing your stuff. They would actually have to walk up and open the cabinet. It's kind of like they'd have to walk up to open your refrigerator to see what's in the refrigerator. Well, that's kind of out of pocket if they're not working on your refrigerator, right? But right now, in the way that I've had my garage set up, you guys know I had the Capex over there, the other Capex over there. So imagine if a guy has to come out here in this garage to work anywhere in the garage, and the first thing he sees when he walks in is a bunch of Festool, right? I'm just inviting a problem with that. So I put everything away, and then I'm at the mercy of when the person comes, because more than likely when they come, I'm gonna be at work. I work 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. So I'm not gonna be here more than likely when these repairs are gonna be happening. So before they come, I have to pack everything away, and then I have to wait until they come. And then sometimes they come at their leisure. And then when they come, I have to let them finish their job. And then after that, then I can lay all my tools back out, put everything, rearrange everything again, and then I can start trying to build something. So just imagine if I was in the middle of a project, right? It's so much easier for me on this channel to essentially, like if I go buy a new tool, I can just unbox it, show that, and then I can pack everything away. Like right now, one of my vacs, or actually both of the 2 new vacuums are upstairs, because they were stored away, but I dug back in there, pulled all that stuff out so that I can just do the unboxings. That's why they were not in the shop down here, because I wanted to get that done. Oh, the other thing I wanted to add into the video is just a little bit of an explanation of how I like to do videos here on the channel. So I do want to do builds, right? That is the plan. But sometimes when I'm building things behind the scene, trying to figure out how to do something and how to record it, I'll end up coming across something like, say, when I bought the smaller Delve square. Before I bought it, I was like, man, it would be nice to have a smaller square because I'm using the bigger square like the bench dogs, and it's not fitting where I want it to do the precise work that I'm hoping to get done. And so as a result, that would plant the seed in my mind, you know what, later get that 3.5 Delve square. And so then I buy it. And then at the time when I bought it, I had bought those other ones as well. Like the last few videos that I did, like say, not the vacuums, but like when I bought that long Festool hose, that the last Festool track saw, the TS55, the stainless steel square, the 6-inch and the 3.5-inch, and also the 3.5-inch aluminum square. I bought all that stuff like probably within the same week, right? And so I had all that stuff in the shop. And matter of fact, the basic part of all of those videos, the tools that I named, I recorded all of those videos the same day. What I did is I came back because I got so tired. Sometimes I get tired of just talking about, just doing unboxing after unboxing after unboxing. And so I didn't do them quite as well as I would have liked because I got fatigued. And so I let that video footage just sit for a while. And then I came back out on different days and I recorded B-roll to add to the videos. Like when in the videos with the squares, like when you see me using a Ryobi table and the table saw and showing the angles and all that, I recorded all 3 of those videos. I recorded that part all at the same time, right? And is, you know, trying to group things together because they're similar products or whatever. Now, because I had to shut the shop down due to some work that we're gonna have done, I was unable to do that with the T-squares, and that's why those videos are substantially shorter. But I wanted to get them up because when I do get back up and ready to do videos, I want to just work. It's for me in this channel, and it's a business decision basically. I don't want to start using any tool that I have not done an unboxing and overview for on my channel. And the reason being is because I'm not doing Patreon at this time. I don't have, you know, members and people, you know, paying me money or anything like that. I'm solely getting YouTube ad revenue with this channel. And maybe occasionally when I remember to put the Amazon link down there, if somebody buys a tool that way, I may get a small kickback like that. Other than that, so my income that I get from the channel is very, very small. And so I want to take every opportunity to provide multiple ways of being able to bring both attention to the channel, possibly get more subscribers if they so choose. You know, I want to get the exposure out there. Like, I'm not the type of person that does the whole like and subscribe thing. I'm not interested in that because it doesn't affect me. When someone tells me to like and subscribe, it does not affect whether I subscribe or not. I subscribe because either I like the person that I'm watching or because I like the content or there's information for me to receive. And so as a result, I don't do that. You can go back and look over my whole catalog of videos, coming up on 600 videos. Never once have I said that because that's just not how I operate. I want anybody that subscribes to this channel to subscribe because they want to, right? And, you know, there's no begging going on over here. It's just if you like what you see and you're interested in it, great. If not, you know, great as well. It's not a big deal. That's not my motivation. My motivation is just to provide, to share information or things that I'm doing with the general public. Some people may agree, some people may disagree, but I've seen people, you know, I mean, I don't know if you guys remember, there was a lady, right? And she bought a Chewbacca mask and put it on in her car and just started laughing, right? That video went viral, so viral, and to the point to where she ended up going on a talk show and her kids ended up getting like scholarships to college for that, right? I'm not judging, I'm not criticizing, I'm not hating. But what I'm saying is if someone can do that, I can do what I'm doing. I can do what I'm doing, and it's the critics, I really don't care. I truly don't. As long as I'm enjoying me, that's all that matters. You know, haters are gonna hate, they gonna do what they do. I'm gonna keep doing me. So once we get whatever we need to get done, you know, obviously I'm purposely not saying what's getting done, but once that's taken care of, then I'll get the shop back set up, and most of the tools that I plan on buying have been purchased. There are a few more, and I think I'm gonna do a separate video because I think this video, yeah, it's up to about 27 minutes. I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this one up here, and then I'll come back and do another video talking about the tools that I plan on buying going forward as far as Festool tools and maybe any other tools, and then also give you a little bit more insight into different things. I want to build some rolling type storage to pack away some of the other things that I have in here and make it look a little bit more neat. But ultimately, I don't like to use this term, but because it's been a label put on me, I'm going to use it to communicate, you know, clearly. The perfectionist mindset in me, obviously this does not look perfect, so that's why I don't like to use that term for myself, but people have called me a perfectionist. When I started down this journey of basically deciding that I wanted to learn how to make cabinets, that's ultimately the goal. The cabinetry thing will help us in the house by storing things away, as I said, making things look neater. I can make cabinets for both inside the house and in the garage. And I want these cabinets to be mobile, so because my mind is always changing as far as like sometimes I want things over here, sometimes I want things over there, which is one of the reasons why I really enjoy the Festool tool system, because it's a mobile system basically. It's not like if you go out and buy a big SawStop table saw or like huge band saws, huge jointers and planers and all that type of stuff. Those are stagnant tools for a more stagnant shop. And you know, I still kind of have a vision or a dream to hope that one day I can get this place set up to where I can still bring a car in here and work on it. Right now it's not in that state. In order for me to get to that state, I got to get rid of these big tables, you know, and trying to stay a little bit disciplined and focused. As I said, I want to finish out the Festool shop first. Once I finish out the Festool shop, then I have to decide on if I'm going to buy the metal cutting saw. I think it's the Evolution S355, and start working with aluminum and making my own specialized MFTs with folding legs, or if I'm going to give that free promotion and go out and buy, like say a dashboard tables that are already manufactured off the shelf and fold, you know, have those to where I can still have the same amount of table space to work, but I can fold them up and put them away. So I'm still of two minds about that, whether I want to go down the pathway of making my own, because I do have the Parf Guide system, so I can drill my own MFT tops. That's not a problem. Working with aluminum obviously is going to be a little bit more, you know, you can get smaller parts, right? When you work with metal versus wood, you sometimes have to have stuff that's thicker, heavier to support the same amount of weight as metal. And of course, aluminum is a little bit lighter than like say steel. And so if I get the metal cutting saw, I can get an aluminum cutting blade, and I can go down the pathway of buying, you know, like the 80-20 type parts and putting together my own little custom MFT benches that can fold away. I also, you know, I've been looking at a welder. I really want to give myself the capability to be able to weld metal, but that's still further down the line, because the welding would also help me to do more stuff on the cars as well. I will come back and do an update on the car. I have some pretty good news about that. Not quite finished, but it has advanced. Anyways, guys, I want to thank you for taking time to watch this video. I'll see you in my next one. Take care.